The Kenny and JT Show. Powered by Roosters, a fun, casual joint.
Another day, another NFL head coach is gone. The Steelers today announcing that Mike Tomlin has stepped down as their head coach. That brings the total to 9 teams now looking for new head coaches, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the show because we want to talk some Cavs basketball right now, JT. Cavaliers, a loser last night by 11 at home to the Utah Jazz, arguably one of their worst losses of the season. The lack of consistency is bothersome to me. They are 41 games now into the season, which is officially the halfway point, and they are 22-19, only 3 games above 500. To break this all down for us, let's go to the hotline right now and bring in the outstanding Cavaliers and NBA beat reporter from Amico Hoops on Twitter as well as hoopswire.com. Sam Amico joins us. Sam, how are you today?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Always good to have you on. So we're better and we're more knowledgeable after we converse with you, Sam. So help us understand what the hell's wrong with this Cavaliers team.
Well, after you built me up like that, I've got no answers, and I don't know that they do either. I think that, it's just when you look at this team, you look at so far in this first half of the season, I was sitting there last night and I thought, man, the guys who aren't your core, the young guys, the Naquan Tomlins, the Tysons, the Craig Porter Juniors, those guys play so hard and they get after it. And I don't know, other than Donovan Mitchell, if that's there from the rest of the quote-unquote core 4. I think Darius Garland's coming around, but I'm just not seeing that, simple eye test, just not seeing that same type of effort from the guys who are expected to carry you. And maybe that's, maybe I'm right about that, and that's the problem. But something is very amiss right now.
Sam, one of those things that's amiss is defense. This team dead last in three-point defensive efficiency. They've given up 130 points average over the last 3 games. I mean, what gives?
Yeah, I wrote that in my column today that I certainly don't have the answer on how to defend the three-point line in today's NBA. But they don't either.
Right.
I mean, it's a difficult thing, with the way teams are shooting 35 threes a game a lot of times to just stay out there on the perimeter. But I don't know. It's obviously, part of their scheme is flawed on how to defend the three-point line. I think they're getting suckered into teams drive and all of a sudden you double team the guy who's driving and they kick it out. They just have not been, again, that probably comes down to a lack of focus for 48 minutes, a lack of effort in certain areas for 48 minutes, because defense 90% of the time comes down to focus and paying attention and realizing who your opponent is and understanding them. And it's just not been there for the Cavs.
Happy to have with us Sam Amico, founder and senior NBA writer, hoopswire.com, co-host at Full Court Cleveland, and he's a contributor to Mark Price's podcast as well. Love his breakdown of the Cavaliers and the NBA. So of all the players on this team that you're concerned with, who's at the top of that list?
There's, it's a fight to the finish as far as that goes. But right now, I would say it's, DeAndre Hunter. You went out and got this guy last year at the trade deadline because you thought he was going to solve your 3-and-D problems, right? I mean, that's everybody. That was kind of everybody was excited about this. You gave up 2 guys, George Niang and Karis LeVert, who are no longer even on the Hawks, for this guy that you thought, well, now we got a guy who's going to be able to defend Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, these other guys, and he can score. Last night, 2 points. His game has just not been there. I'm starting to look at DeAndre Hunter and think, well, now we know why the Hawks gave him to the Cavs for 2 guys who are no longer on their team. He's very up and down. There's times you don't realize he's out there. The starting small forward spot was his to take, right? I mean, Max Strus is hurt. They wanted DeAndre Hunter to claim that job, and last night instead they're starting Sam Merrill, and it just seems like that has been a flop so far. I mean, I don't think you can spin it any other way this year. He's that trade looks bad, and that's not what they were expecting. So that's part of the issue. I think the same issues we saw in the playoffs last year are still there. Kobe Altman said after the season, we're not tough enough. They're still not tough enough. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are still, Evan Mobley he puts up decent numbers, but he disappears for long stretches, and he should be taking that next step. Jared Allen's regressed. So I think all these things are adding up for them and not in a positive way.
It's amazing, too. When you say Jared Allen regressed, it's almost as if, and I was telling Kenny this, if they don't get him active early in the game, he's disinterested. And maybe the same with DeAndre Hunter. I don't know. But at 22-19, the sky isn't falling. They had won 7 of 10, and in one fell swoop, wham! Where are we? And we're going to Philadelphia. Can they at least split?
Well, I think that you would hope that they, I mean, I don't have the answer.
That answer is no. That answer you just gave me is a no.
Yeah, I mean, I do you have reason to believe that they can? I mean, maybe yes and no. We saw how they played against Minnesota at home. They actually played well against Minnesota on the road, even though they lost that game. But, yeah, you never know what to expect from this team from night to night.
Right.
And in the NBA, usually this can be kind of the difficult part of the season. We've seen the Oklahoma City Thunder, so dominant early on, and now all of a sudden they're playing about 500 ball, losing to the Hornets. So, I mean, these things can happen, but, and I say this with the Cavs right now, the clock isn't ticking. But, my gosh, it's warming up. All that matters is what you do from now until whenever the playoffs end. But you need to start pulling it together and winning a game in Philadelphia and playing well in Philadelphia. You need to find something to get you to that 4, 5, 6-game winning streak where you're feeling good about yourself. And I think they're capable, but right now they're not showing any signs that that's something that's going to happen.
Sam Amico, our guest, talking Cavaliers basketball here on the Kenny and JT Show. Follow Sam on Twitter, @AmicoHoops. All right, Sam, trading deadline. Being in the second apron, okay, how can the Cavaliers make a trade if they want to? What are the restrictions? What are the rules because of where they are with that second apron?
Yeah, they can't aggregate salaries. This is a big one where, look, a lot of teams have interest in DeAndre Hunter, but they want Craig Porter Jr. or Jalen Tyson too to do that. And the Cavs, listen, they can't make a trade like that. They can't put two salaries together and just take one guy back, right? So, and I don't think they want to trade Tyson for sure.
Right.
So they're just. I always say that the first apron, now when you go over the hard cap and you pay that tax, that first apron that you go over that's a penalty against the owners. When you go beyond that first apron and are paying twice the tax, which is the second apron, that's a rule that punishes general managers. And that really prohibits them. And the Cavs are the only team in that position. They are over that second apron where it's a rule that punishes the GMs, and it makes it almost impossible to make a deal. People have said, they got to trade this guy. I'm like, good luck. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. That rule is so strict against general managers that, and listen, if you're the other teams, if I'm the Los Angeles Clippers and you're calling me about DeAndre Hunter, I'm like, you guys you're in salary cap hell. We're not, we've got no reason to help you and put ourselves in that position.
Right.
And if you don't want DeAndre Hunter, why do I want him? So I just think they're going to have to wait, other than, if you can give Lonzo Ball away, speaking about trades that were a flop.
Oh, boy.
If you can give him away, you do it. If you can, move Dean Wade, whose contract's expiring, you do it. And you know what? Those things are valuable pieces. Expiring contracts in today's NBA are almost like a superstar.
But what are you getting back in return, though, if you do that? And if you're the Cavs, don't you want to keep Wade then, because his contract does come off the books, which helps you next year?
Yeah, you're getting, and that's right, Kenny, with Dean Wade. You're getting Mish, and same thing with Ball. You're getting Mish for Mash if you trade those guys. It's very rare that you're going to get somebody who's going to come in and contribute a ton. But yeah, so I think that I honestly think, and this is the NBA, so crazy things always happen, but I think they're stuck with this roster for the rest of the year.
Which is fine. Sam, what they need to do is find more Daquan Tomlins, Jordan Tysons, Craig Porter Jr.'s, active guys that show that they want to play on a nightly basis versus guys that may seem disinterested. Sam Amico is our guest right now. Sam, and I want to ask you this question too, because I don't know how much this has to do with anything, but when he was a member of the Brooklyn Nets and Kenny Atkinson was the head coach, Jordan Ott was on that staff. They brought him in, and he was a member of the staff last season as well. Now he's the head coach of Phoenix. They're 24-15, probably playing better than a lot of people thought they would. How much do they miss this guy?
Well, that's the obvious kind of connection there. It's like you would think, this guy obviously played a big role, right? Last year, Cavs were 64-18. He goes to a Phoenix team that's, lost, traded Kevin Durant and lost Bradley Beal. One of the guys they've traded for Kevin Durant that was supposed to really help him, Jalen Green's been hurt all year, and they're still 24-15. So you kind of connect the dots a little bit there, and maybe they missed some of that. But I think more than anything right now, they're lacking kind of that voice in the locker room. And I don't think it's a coach. I think, listen, this is going to sound crazy, but you lost a lot when you traded away George Niang, because you had the one guy in that locker room who would call people out. Donovan Mitchell, you need to start passing the ball. And Donovan would be like, oh, yeah, you're right. They don't have that voice. Tristan Thompson was another voice. Those were the two guys who would call out their teammates in the locker room and say, pull it together. They don't have a guy who does that. Donovan Mitchell is wonderful. He's a wonderful person. He leads by taking the blame and by praising his teammates. They don't have a guy in that locker room who's going to say, hey, listen, enough is enough, and go out and do it. And I thought that when they made that trade. And I remember Jared Allen saying it. He said, if you trade some of these guys, you're going to impact the locker room. And guess what? They brought in DeAndre Hunter, another wonderful guy.
Yeah.
But he is very quiet and standoffish.
Hey, I know George Niang's a member of the Utah Jazz. Too bad they couldn't get him to stay there after last. I know he didn't play last night, but was he there? We didn't go to the game.
He was there, and George is George. He's a good guy, but he's not going to hold back when things aren't going right. And
so you're telling me, Sam, they need a Channing Frye type player if they can get in a trade.
Later.
I think that they could definitely use a guy who is respected, and who is a locker room voice, who's going to hold the players-only meetings, who's going to tell other guys that, listen, we need, they could go out and trade Lonzo Ball for Joe Ingles, and they would be better off.
Wow.
Because somebody like Joe Ingles would come in that locker room. He's respected. He's got Donovan Mitchell's respect. And he would be the guy who would call other people out. And I'm not saying that's the automatic fix,
right?
But it's very clear that's part of what they're missing.
Shouldn't that be Donovan's job? He's a leader of this team. I don't care how much they're preaching that it should be Evan Mobley. Isn't that Donovan Mitchell's team?
Yeah, listen. Some guys have different. LeBron James would go in there and he would, he's going to call you out. He's going to tweet about you, maybe, a little bit like he did with Kevin Love. But Donovan's personality is not that way. He is a fall on the sword kind of guy. That's just his personality. And you can't go in there and say, Donovan, you need to change your personality because these guys aren't producing. You've got to accept your leader's personality for who they are, or you're really in trouble.
Sam Amico, our guest, talking Cavaliers basketball here on the Kenny and JT Show. Cavaliers a loser at home to the Jazz last night by 11 points, 22-19 at the 41-game mark. All right, JT and I have been talking about this, Sam. How much do you think that this is maybe the mindset of the team? Come out last year, win their first 15, win 64, get beat in the second round. We wasted all our energy and time during the regular season last year, and it blew up on us in the postseason. Let's just get to the playoffs. Who cares what record we have as long as we get there, and then we'll turn it on in the postseason when the games really matter. Do you think the Cavaliers players are thinking that in any way, shape, or form, and that they believe that?
Yeah. I mean, what do we say when they're 15-0? Nothing matters till you get to the playoffs.
Right.
When they win 12 in a row last year after their 15-game winning streak, well, it doesn't matter until you get to April. Well, you know what? I mean, I don't like what I'm seeing from them right now.
Yeah.
But I also know, listen, the Indiana Pacers started 11-15 last year and went to the finals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they turned it on. So is there some of that human nature? If we're thinking that, guess what? They're humans too.
Right.
So I think there is a little bit of an element of that, of, you know what, we're going to turn it on after the All-Star break.
Okay.
They haven't been playing well, right? They're 22-19. What are they? Four games out of the number 2 seed?
Okay. All right.
You win 6 of 7, all of a sudden you're right there with the Pistons. So and it doesn't matter what seed you finish with. The Pacers were, 6th last year? You still have to win road games in the playoffs,
True.
Even if you're the number 1 seed. So is that something that deserves consideration? I think you guys are right. That's absolutely something that could be going on.
All right, so maybe we shouldn't worry as much as we might be right now, but at what point do you start to worry, Sam, if you don't see this thing turning around? Is there a game marker? Is it 50, 60, 70 game? When do you say, boy, this isn't going the way it should be going at this point?
Yeah, I think we're just about there. I always say 45, 50 games. They're at 41. I think that this is the time to start, hey, get it together. I mean, I don't know if it's major worry, but it is okay. They just put together an entire first half of the season that was wildly underachieving. So
yep.
You start. I think now is, I don't know about worry, but now is the time to be like, okay, you better step on it here soon, because you want to start forming some habits that you're going to have in the playoffs, and you want to get you don't want to be in the play-in tournament. So I think it's to the point, I don't say worry, but I think it's to the point where it's like, it's time to look at them with a critical eye, and I can understand a lot of the fans at this point. Some of them are even outraged. So, and I can tell you, Dan Gilbert's not real thrilled either. So
right.
I think right now, guys, is the time where it's like, okay, within the next month, they really need to step on it.
They should be happy to be in the play-in tournament.
Why is that?
The way they're playing.
Oh, well.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, they
Right.
don't give you any hope when you watch this team to think that anything's going to change. And there's a switch where they can just flip it, and all of a sudden we turn back into the Cavaliers when LeBron was here.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet because we haven't gotten to that point where the games, so-called, from what you're pointing out, they matter. You know what I mean?
Because we're spoiled from last
Yeah,
season?
yeah,
All right, I'll give you that.
A little bit that way. What about Kenny Atkinson, Sam Amico? Hey, Some people are asking me last night, I was doing a Monday Night Trivia, has he lost the locker room? Are they tuning him out? Is that why they're so lackadaisical on defense and they don't play hard every night? Is it on the head coach or is this more on the players?
I think it's more on the players at this point. I don't think that I'm not getting a sense they've tuned him out for several reasons.
Okay.
Number one, he's still in a really good mood.
Okay.
And usually when you see coaches that have been tuned out by the team, we could see that with John Beilein, like the short time he was here. It was like every game he started getting a little bit crabbier with the media, a little bit more frowning. Kenny Atkinson came in the press conference last night and was laughing. When he walked in, he was laughing.
Wow.
He was sitting there talking about the microphone and how was this thing on, and he was goofing around, and he said, listen, we've won 5 of the last 7. They just got the doors blown off of them. So we came out without any fire or any, determination or spirit. And guess what? Those things happen in the NBA, and they do.
Right.
It's just for the Cavs, it's been happening too much. He said we got down, 19-4? Well, we just beat Minnesota, scored 146 points. We probably were thinking we were all high and mighty, and the Jazz just got the doors blown off. They came out with something to prove, and we weren't ready for that. We were overlooking them because they're the Jazz, right? So I don't think that's a guy who's lost the locker room. Okay. I think what's happening here is he's okay with them coasting a little bit and then ramping it up at some point. Okay. I really think this is what's going on for the most part, but it's my concern more than the loss to the Utah Jazz is the same things that hurt you in the playoffs last year for not being tough enough, not being physical enough.
Yep.
Those are still there. I also think they miss Isaac Okoro and Ty Jerome. Not those guys specifically, but those types of players off the bench. Okoro gave you a guy who could defend anybody or would try, and Jerome had that spark off the bench that they don't have. Instead, they have DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench scoring 2 points. So right. I think those are the things they're missing. But again, okay, let's see where they are February 1st, right? I mean, that's all you can do.
All right, Sam Amico breaking it down for senior NBA writer at hoopswire.com. Follow him on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Who's the best team in the NBA, Sam Amico?
I still think the Oklahoma City Thunder are the best team. They've not played like it lately, but again, it's kind of this. Every NBA season has its ebbs and flows, right? Yeah. And this is where the Thunder are right now. They've not been spectacular, but to me, when they get it together, they're the best team. I think when the Denver Nuggets are fully healthy, they're way up there.
So what I was getting at, Sam, because I agree with you, they're still the best. How far are the Cavaliers away from what you think are the best teams in both conferences?
I don't think they're that far away in the East.
Okay.
If they pull it together,
right,
as everybody expected them to be, they they're a long way from this. But if they pull it together, yeah, then they're way up there in the East. They may be the team to beat if they could pull it together. I don't see signs of that happening, but it's certainly there. They went into New York on Christmas Day, played incredibly well, blew that game, but that game was, to me, okay, they're back, and they weren't. I was wrong, but right. That shows you how close they are. Because really, to me, Pistons, I think, are a couple years away from being a real contender. Having a great regular season, obviously, but I think New York's a team to beat. So they're not that far away from the Knicks when they play focused basketball, as we saw on Christmas Day. But consistently, yeah, they're not even close.
Right. Yeah, and they, like you said, only 4 games out of second place in New York right now in the Eastern Conference. Great insight, as always, from Sam Amico. If you're a basketball fan, a Cavs fan, follow him on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Check him out at hoopswire.com. Check him out on TV. Check him out everywhere. He does everything: podcasts, TV, blogs, and social media. He's the best there is. Sam, we always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, Kenny, thanks for having me, JT. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds great. Sam Amico checking in, breaking down the Cavs as only he can here on the Kenny and JT Show.
It's Kenny and JT on